Buying a router today can be nothing short of a nightmare, like trying to navigate a minefield. There's such a wealth on offer. Every man and his dog now makes a router or a range of routers or a system that they want you to buy into. So what I'm going to attempt to do in this video is to try and help you negotiate that minefield by explaining the differences between the various routers that I've got, don't judge me, and their upsides and downsides and what I use them for and what I think of them. There's a lot to get through, so you might want to arm yourself with a cup of tea and a biscuit. What you see before you currently is nearly all of my collection of handheld routers. There's only a couple missing. Don't judge me, I've been building this collection for well over a decade, probably nearly two. Anyway, I've got them organised at the moment on the bench in order of price. Lowest at this end, most expensive at this end, no surprise there. And they're all currently available to buy, brand new online, apart from this one. So what I'm going to do is just talk through each one of them, why I bought it, what I use it for, or what I think about it, and importantly, whether I would buy it again. So first up, the JCB half-inch collar 2100 watt motor. And like I say, you can't buy this new anymore, but you can get it second-hand. There's quite a few available on eBay for around 50, 60 quid. And I think that's an absolute bargain. This is a superb router. Absolutely love it. The handles are canted forward, which make it really comfortable to use. The locking mechanism for the plunge is located right there for your thumb. Really easy to get to. You've got a turret here that you can turn to use in conjunction with your depth stop. So it's pretty much got all the features you'd expect on a basic router. And it also came with parallel fence. Not the best parallel fence in the world, but pretty good parallel fence. They call it change mechanism. There's a little push button there to lock the shaft, and then with the included spanner you can change the bit. I bought this to do a single job, and it lives all the time with this large roundover bit in it, and I use it for large roundovers. That's it. That's all I use it for. Gets used half a dozen times a week, I suppose, and never fails. Always starts. The base on it, you might be wondering about, that didn't come with it. I made the base out of a piece of acrylic that I bought, so I've got extra purchase if I'm putting a roundover on smaller pieces. The base that it comes with is just this size. Love it, no complaints about it whatsoever. Or fine adjustment up there, I should say. Would I buy it again? Hell yeah. In fact, I might even get myself one of the little second-hand ones on eBay and just stick it on the shelf just in case, or ready for when it breaks at some point. It's a bit of a weight to hold. It's not that bad, but it's a big old router, and I don't think I'd be happy trying to do any fine work with it. But for any larger jobs, flattening or larger roundovers, trenching work, superb router, well worth the money and not expensive. So next up by price, the Bosch GKF-600. This little battery powered trim router. You can buy it in two versions at the moment. One, the bare unit on its own, if you've already got batteries, about 150 quid. And you can also buy it with a battery charger and two of these batteries for about 250 quid. And in my opinion, these little batteries are worthless. They don't hold enough power to drive the router and to keep the router usable for long enough and two of them, the little charger that comes with it just takes too long to charge the batteries. That's a 2 amp hour. So I went and bought this as an extra. This is about 40 odd quid, I think, 6 amp hour. And this drives the router quite well, but it's a fixed speed router. And it runs quite slowly. In fact, I think it runs too slowly, which is an issue because you can get burn-in and chip out with it quite easily unless your bit is ultra sharp, brand new. Also, the fine adjustment is here. There's a locking knob there to lock the height, and then this button will release the base, and then you can get it to roughly where you want it to be, and then you twiddle this ridiculously placed little knob to get it to exactly where you want it. So if you want to, it's just a bad design, in my opinion, for that fine adjustment. When you want to change the bit, you lock the shaft using this. Again, bizarre idea. A button would be much easier, and then make sure you push it in again before you start the router. God knows what will happen if you don't. Probably shear itself off. The base and the whole shape of it is so that you can perch it on the edge and it won't fall off, which is a great idea, but it's just feels bizarre in the hand, and it takes a bit of getting used to make sure you keep that way round all the time. It's a good theory, but I just don't think it works well in practice, and I definitely wouldn't buy it again. I use it really rarely now. So next up, the Bosch GKF-600 little trim router, palm router. Currently available for around 170, 180 quid, and comes with this fixed base and a parallel fence to go with it, and also a little guide bush fence, tiny little slider with a bearing on the end so that you don't have to have a bearing guided bit. This one I've had for ages, and I've broken the fine adjustment on it. Not its fault, my fault for being cack-handed. But the fine adjustment, you unlock it, you wind this little wheel here and then lock it back in place again, and it works really well. It's a fixed speed router, but it runs fast enough to be of use, and I absolutely love it. It's really light, really small, good length, high flex cord on it, and it just does what you need it to do. For putting tiny roundovers on or little edge detail work, it is superb. Like I say, single speed, but the speed is, I think, about perfect for this type of router. This isn't going to be a single router purchase for your workshop, because you don't get any of the other features that you probably want. You can't plunge with it. Like I say, it's fixed base. I should mention that that's the lock and knob for when you want to change the bit in it. Take it out the base, you unlock. It's got a bizarre twist idea to put the base back in, then hold that in, included spanner, change your bit, and away you go. I'll set that down there so I know I've got to readjust it again. But well worthwhile. I would buy it again. And in fact, this is one of the routers that I use that often that I may well buy another to keep on the shelf when I get the money. Superb router, well worth consideration. So next up, the Akoki M12 VE. And this is rebranded. This used to be Hitachi. I'm sure it used to be Hitachi. And this is my second one. My first one, Hitachi M12 VE. I bought, 10, 15 years ago, I suppose. and it's still going strong, but I've bastardized it to fit in my router table. So this is another one that I bought to keep as a plunge router. Currently available for about 170 quid, and for that money you get the router and you get a parallel fence to go with it. You get a spanner with it to change colour, and you get a guide bush to go in the base. It actually has, when you buy a like a plastic acrylic base that goes on it. I've taken that off because I use this with my flattening sled. The handles are slightly canted again, not an awful lot, but a little bit. On-off button, nicely placed. The locker knob for the plunge is over here, and I always felt it worked back to front, but you get your head around it. It's a variable speed. Half-inch. Do you get a quarter-inch collet with it? Yep, half-inch and a quarter-inch collet with it. Again, it's a push button to lock the shaft. When you change the bit over, you've got a depth gauge here and a turret. The one thing I'd say about this router is I love it to death. It's one of those does what it says on the tin jobs. Clunky, nothing about it is finessed, but for that sort of money I wouldn't expect finesse from the device. But if you want a router that's going to do some heavy lifting work, then this is the one. In fact, I would put this as a router that you could use for the majority of jobs in the workshop. It's not overly heavy. It is a bit of a lump. I wouldn't use it for really, really fine work that I'd use the GKF-600 for, but definitely buy this again without any hesitation whatsoever. Really happy with it. Just a workhorse. So next up, the Dewalt, the D26204. 26204, sorry. And now we're into really the sweet spot of routers, because these are true multifunctional. It's currently available for £387, but you get quite a bit for your money. This is the corded version. They also do a cordless version, which is all but identical, power-wise, ability-wise. In fact, I've just done a video comparing the two. The only difference being one's got battery, one's got a cord. So when you buy this, you can buy it as a kit, and I recommend that you do, because in the kit you get a plunge base and you get a fixed base. And the beauty being that you can literally just take it out the fixed base and pop it in the plunge base, and you've got a fully functional plunge router, complete with turret, adjuster, well-placed locking knob for your plunge action. Also in the kit, you'll get a parallel fence to work with the plunge base and a parallel fence that works with the fixed base. So the Dewalt is a 900 watt motor, which makes it really quite versatile, but it's not a half-inch. It won't take a half-inch bit. It's a quarter-inch collar. So you'd need to make sure that you'd be happy with the majority of your work or all of your needs being fulfilled with a quarter-inch collar. The fine adjust on it when you're using it in the fixed base, I think, is a little coarse, because it's with this collar, and you turn it and up or down. It works. You can definitely get it to where you want it to be. It could be a little finer, I suppose, as some other manufacturers have made, but a superb router. I use this fairly often, and I use it for a multitude of tasks. so not just edge trimming. I do swap it over to the plunge base. I recently did a job on site where I needed the plunge base fit indoors, different depths set on the turret, so I could sink the hinges and sink the furniture, the locks in the front. So really, really handy router, and being able to get it in battery powered as well, brilliant for site work. Corded, I think, is better for workshop work, but you buy whichever one suits your need. I should also mention that the kit came with this little guide bush plate that you can screw to the bottom. I like the fact on the Dewalt that you've got this slightly extended base that you can use to help make sure you keep it nice and flat when you're doing edge work. It's relatively heavy, much heavier than the Bosch GKF-600, but it's got far more functionality, far more versatile than the Bosch 600. So a real contender for consideration. Good router, definitely buy it again. So next up, the Milwaukee. The Milwaukee is a definite contender, all but identical contender to the Dewalt that we've just looked at. This is the battery version. I only have the battery version of this. I really like this because it's a smaller body, fits my hand an awful lot better. It's about the equivalent of a 600 watt motor, I believe, but this is the M18 FTR. Like I say, currently available in the kit form for about 405 quid. And the same as with the Dewalt, you get the fixed base and you get the plunge base and a parallel guide for each. And I should have mentioned with the Dewalt that you also get dust extraction connectors, and I did say the guide bush, you also get a guide bush to use with the plunge base. I prefer the fine adjustment on the Milwaukee, with the Milwaukee to fine adjust in the fix, undo the clasp, and then you can rotate this little knob and it works really, really well. So I'm going to leave that wound back up, so I know I've got to readjust it again. And to swap it into the fixed base, you depress this little button here, which moves the locking gear for the fine adjustment up out of the way, and then you drop it into the plunge base all the way down, lock the handle, and this fine adjustment then becomes redundant because you use the fixed base. Fine adjuster here, your depth stop, and you've got a little turret to use with it as well. Interestingly, not really importantly, the turret on the Milwaukee's plastic, the turret on the Dewalt is aluminium, same as the base. I really, really like this plunge base because of these handles. They are just so comfortable to use. The locking mechanisms in a really good place. It's really difficult to fault this version, this Milwaukee. I think I prefer it over the Dewalt, but the Dewalt's got that extra bit of power, obviously down to whatever your needs are and whether you're buying the router as an additional or as your only router. Good weight, like it, would definitely buy it again. So now we're on to Festool's offering, and this is the Festool OF1010 EBQ. No idea what the EBQ stands for. The OF1010, at the time of recording this, is available for 520 quid. And for your 520 quid, you get the router, you get a spanner, you get a parallel fence with it, and you get a power cord. Not an awful lot for 520 quid when you compare it against the others that we've just looked at. Not my favourite router, I've got to say. It's 1/4 inch collet. I think it'll take an 8mm collet as well. Does it come with the 8mm? And I think it comes with the 8mm as well. Locking on this one to change the bit again is you push in the button, use the spanner, lock your bit off. The plunge action on these are different. This is the lock and knob, so you'd plunge down, lock the knob, and away you go. Festool claimed this to be a one-handed router. It is light enough to use as a one-handed router. I know on the new version, this is no longer moulded in. This is the dust extraction connector in the most bizarre shape. No idea why they do that. But on the new one, this is a plastic bit that you connect to it. These knobs here are to lock down your parallel fence. It's a ultra adjustable turret, because you can put a screwdriver in these and wind them up or down. And there's your depth stop. I think, my opinion of this router is it's a little bit too big to be a contender along with the Palm routers. You can use it one-handed once you've got it all set up, but I don't go to it much now that I've got the Dewalt and the Milwaukee. I find them easier to use, so this kind of sits on the shelf most of the time. In fact, the only time I do use this is when the others are all set up and I don't want to adjust the setup. I wouldn't buy this again. I'm not a fan of this particular router. Too big to be a small router, too small to be a big router. Not my favourite. Next up, Festool's OF1010 1400 watt motor. This is currently available for, lowest price I've found, 660 quid. For that, you get the router, you get the dust extraction connector, you get a spanner, you get a parallel fence, you get a cable. Not a lot else in the kit, to be honest, for nearly 700 quid, but I love it. My most used router, without exception. The turret on it, again, ultra adjustable, because you can wind these threaded bars up and down. Fine adjustment on it is superb via this, so you set to where you want it, and then you can fine adjust with this. To change the bit is superb. There's actually a ratchet built in, so you can press this button based on whether you're taking the bit out or putting it back in again, and then single spanner changeovers really, really quick. Dust extraction, press that little lever, take that off. It's a really, really well thought out router, and one of the bits about the Festools that I love, the OF1010's got it on it as well, is center markings there, and there, so that you can do your setup based on dead center of the bit, and makes it really, really easy to use. Very comfortable to use. Same plunge mechanism as on the OF1010, lock the knob. So once you've done that, yeah, you can single-handed use. That's probably my favourite way to grip it. It's very friendly to use, very easy to use. Speed adjustment is there. Yeah, I can't really fault the router. And would I buy it again? Yeah, in a heartbeat. Really, really love this router. You can get extra accessories with it so that you can use it with the rest of their Festool system, so especially with their sliding rail kit. So you can use it for trenching if you want to. Superb. Favourite router. One of my favourite routers. And last up, Festool's big boy, the OF2200. I think amongst one of the most expensive routers on the planet. bizarrely, it's a fixed cable. Every other piece of Festool kit I've got that's corded, the cord comes out, and this one doesn't, which I find bizarre and really quite annoying. But apart from that, everything else on this router works so well. I absolutely love using it. It costs an arm and a leg. You can buy the base model router, and for that you get this, as you see it now. Dust extraction port is built in. You get 2 collets with it. Yes, you get 2 collets with it, a 1/2 inch and a 1/4 inch collet. You get a little guide bush insert to put in the base at the bottom, and you get a spanner for changing the bit. And for that, you don't get a parallel fence. For that, you're going to part with just shy of £1,000, £950, £1,000. Massive amount of money. 2200 watt motor. The speed adjustment is here. The fine adjustment on it is absolutely superb. You can dial it in really exactly with ease. You've got your depth stop there. There's your depth stop lock. There are so many little extra bits on it. The turret here, you've got adjustable turret there, adjustable turret there. When this locks in, you can position this so that the depth stop actually sits into that little recess notch there. Hope you can see that. There, it's a 2 height on there, so you can either have it with the depth stop hitting there or there. So you've got the 4 settings within a 3-column turret, if you like. If you buy the accessory kit with it, then this really takes it to another level, because the accessory kit comes with adjustable bases. And that's all you do to take the base off. You flip this little switch here, unlocks the base. You can see collects a bit of sawdust. And then you can swap it for any of the different bases that come with it. And they literally just click back in again. The handles on this router make it an absolute dream to use. They're really angled forward. So this would be the type of router that I'd recommend for really big jobs that you're going to be working with it for hours at a time. I had to make 170 linear meters of MDF skirting, which took me days. So this is the router that I used to put the moulding on the top of the skirting, and the fatigue with it is minimised by the fact that it's so comfortable. The locking mechanism for the handle is here, so you plunge down to where you want, you give it a little twist, and you're locked in place, and then pop it off. Job's a bobby. Really well thought out, perfect location, works really well. Dust extraction here again works really, really well, but you've also got this shroud that you can lock up out the way and use it without, if you're doing any finer work where you need to see exactly where the bit's going. And then there's a button here to release that back down again. It does tend to lock up a little bit when you've got it full of sawdust, which I have, but I'll give it a blowout later. But like I say, love the router. Any big work that I'm doing, I reach for this because it's so comfortable to use. But the downside of it is it weighs a ton, but it's the heaviest router that I've got, and without exception, the most expensive router that I've got. Would I buy it again? Hell yeah, in a heartbeat. Love it. So that's it, an overview of my collection of routers. As I said, please don't judge me. Nearly 2 decades, maybe more, collecting all of those, but a huge range and a hell of a lot of information for you to think through. I'll put the model numbers of each router down below in the description so that you can copy and paste it, Google search, and find out any other information that you want to know. So I hope you found this useful and informative. If you have, give us a like, maybe a subscribe, and tune in next time. Thanks so much for watching. See you then. Ta-ra.